For 3 years, I thought Clara was my everything. We met in college, two bright-eyed kids with big dreams. I was studying architecture, and she was in finance. Our love story felt like a movie script. We supported each other through late-night study sessions, celebrated every small victory, and planned a future together that seemed unshakable. After graduation, I landed my dream job at a prestigious firm, and Clara quickly climbed the ladder at a major bank. We bought a beautiful apartment downtown, a testament to our hard work and shared dreams. Life was perfect, or so I thought. The first crack appeared subtly. It was a late night at work for her, then another, and another. Big project, she'd say, looking tired. I believed her. I'd have dinner waiting, run her a bath, do anything to ease her stress. I was the supportive boyfriend, the rock she could lean on. Then came the business trips, always last minute. I'd pack her favorite snacks, drive her to the airport, and count the days until she returned. I trusted her completely. Why wouldn't I? We were building a life together. The truth hit me like a freight train on our 3rd anniversary. I'd planned a surprise trip to the coast, the place where I was going to propose. I had the ring, a beautiful vintage piece I knew she'd love, tucked away in my sock drawer. 2 days before we were supposed to leave, I came home early from work, excited to start packing. I walked into our apartment and heard voices from the bedroom. Her voice, laughing, and another voice, a man's. My heart stopped. I pushed the door open, and my world shattered. There she was, with a man I recognized. Her boss, David. A man she had described as a demanding but brilliant mentor. The shock was so immense I couldn't speak. I just stood there, watching my entire future crumble. The look on her face wasn't shame or regret. It was annoyance, as if I had interrupted something important. David, a man at least 20 years her senior, just smirked at me, pulling on his expensive suit jacket without a hint of remorse. "Well, this is awkward," he said, as if it were a minor inconvenience. Clara finally spoke, not with an apology, but with a cold, cutting justification. "Look, it's not what you think," she started, but the lie died on her lips. Then came the truth, colder and harder than I could have ever imagined. "It just happened," she said. "We have a connection. It's business. It's complicated." I didn't scream. I didn't shout. A strange, icy calm washed over me. I just turned around, walked out of our apartment, and kept walking. That night, I stayed at a cheap motel, the engagement ring feeling like a lead weight in my pocket. The next day, I went back to the apartment when I knew she'd be at work. I packed my things, every memory, every piece of my life with her, into cardboard boxes. I left her apartment key on the counter, next to the framed photo of us from our first vacation. I didn't leave a note. I just disappeared from her life. For the next year, I was a ghost. I moved to a small apartment across town, changed my number, and poured everything I had into my work. I told my friends and family we broke up that it was mutual. I couldn't bear to tell them the truth, to see the pity in their eyes. I let everyone believe I was moving on, but I wasn't. Every single day I was fueled by a quiet, burning rage. I saw her social media posts, her life continuing as if I never existed. Pictures of her and David at lavish corporate events, vacationing in exotic locations. They weren't hiding it. They were flaunting it. She was living the high life she'd always craved, a life built on my broken heart. But while she was living it up, I was planning. I spent my nights not sleeping, but researching. As an architect, I have a meticulous eye for detail and structure. I started looking into David's company, their projects, their financials. I remembered Clara mentioning a massive new development project. They were trying to secure a multi-billion-dollar waterfront revitalization. It was the biggest project in the city's history, and David's career was riding on it. His company was the front-runner, almost a shoo-in. And I knew, from my own industry connections, that their bid was aggressive, perhaps too aggressive. I began to dig deeper. I used my architectural knowledge to analyze their proposals, their blueprints, their supplier contracts. I spent weekends poring over public records, zoning laws, and environmental impact reports. It was slow, painstaking work, and then I found it. A tiny discrepancy, a detail so small anyone else would have missed it. A zoning variance for one section of the project hadn't been properly approved. It was a technicality, but a critical one. Digging further, I found that they had used a shell corporation to purchase a key parcel of land, and the ownership of that corporation led back to a company partially owned by David's brother-in-law. It was a clear conflict of interest, a violation of city bidding regulations. They had cut a corner, assuming no one would ever look closely enough. But I did. I compiled everything into a neat, undeniable dossier. The unapproved variants, the shell corporation, the family ties, the financial paper trail. It was a masterpiece of evidence, meticulously organized and utterly damning. I could have just sent it to the press or the city council and watched the fallout from a distance, but that wasn't enough. I wanted them to see my face when their world came crashing down. The day of the final project approval hearing at City Hall was my DA day. I knew David and Clara would be there, front and center, ready to celebrate their victory. I put on my best suit, the one I had bought for our anniversary dinner that never happened. I walked into the packed auditorium and took a seat in the public gallery, watched as David gave a slick, confident presentation. Clara sat in the front row, looking at him with adoration. They were the king and queen of their world, moments away from their coronation. When the presentation ended and the city council opened the floor for public comment, I stood up. I walked to the podium. I saw Clara's eyes widen in shock as she recognized me. David just looked confused. I introduced myself not as a scorned ex-boyfriend, but as a concerned citizen and a professional in the architectural field. Then calmly and methodically I laid out my findings. I presented the zoning violations, the conflict of interest, the shell corporation. I had copies of every document for every member of the council and the press. The room fell into a stunned silence. You could see the panic spread across David's face. Clara looked like she had seen a ghost. The council members were murmuring. The reporters were frantically typing. The smirk was gone from David's face, replaced by pure, unadulterated terror. The hearing was immediately suspended, and an emergency investigation was launched. The fallout was immediate and catastrophic for them. The project was pulled. David's company was disqualified and slapped with a massive fine. He was fired and faced legal charges. His reputation was destroyed overnight. And Clara? She was tainted by association. The brilliant connection that had been her shortcut to the top became her downfall. She was let go from her job a week later, her career in finance over before it had truly begun. The last time I saw her, she was waiting for me outside my office building. She looked completely different. The designer clothes were gone, the confident glow replaced by a desperate, hollow look. She tried to apologize, to explain, to plead. She said she had made a terrible mistake. But I felt nothing. No anger, no satisfaction, just emptiness. The fire that had driven me for a year was finally out. I looked at her and said, "It's not about what you did to me, Clara. It's about the choices you made. You built your life on a lie, and lies, like poorly designed buildings, eventually collapse." Then I turned and walked away, leaving her standing on the sidewalk. I didn't look back. Revenge wasn't as sweet as I thought it would be. It was just final. It closed a chapter of my life. For the first time in a long time, I was free to start designing a new one. This time just for me. Thanks for listening to my story. Don't forget to like and subscribe for more.